Now,
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
Well, good morning, everybody. It is 7:07 on News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We are making sense of the news. A good Monday morning to one and all. I am Andrew Langer in for Larry O'Connor here on O'Connor and Company, sitting with Julie Gunluck. Hello, Julie.
Good morning.
Happy Monday to you.
Happy Monday.
Thank you. Listen, we got a great show coming up. Of course, the Commanders won yesterday against the Atlanta Falcons. We're going to be joined later on in the show by Trevor Matich, who's our Commanders analyst, to recap the game. We've got Adam Gillette from Accuracy and Media. They've got a billboard out there to call out Harvard's up in Cambridge, Massachusetts, to call out Harvard's leading anti-Semites. We're going to talk to him about that. Paul Reiser, he's the actor and comedian. Mad About You, the movie Diner, among other movies, is going to be joining us to talk about his live show on Friday out in Annapolis. But joining us right now is Joe diGenova, a legal analyst, former U.S. Attorney to the District of Columbia. Joe, we had on Cully Stimson just a little bit ago. There was a House hearing last week on crime. The deputy mayor finally had to admit that there is a crime problem in D.C. Are you buoyed at all by the fact that they finally are understanding that there's a crime crisis in D.C., or is it too little too late, Joe?
No, that's all a front. But before we get into that, I want to say something about Suzanne Summers.
Oh, please.
Suzanne and her husband, Alan Hamill, were dear friends of me and my wife, Victoria Tunsing.
Oh, I had no idea.
Victoria and Suzanne shared a birthday, which is today, October the 16th. We were introduced to them many years ago in Palm Springs by mutual friends. Suzanne and her husband, Alan, had seen us doing the O.J. Simpson trial and other commentaries on TV and asked to meet us. We became close friends because they were really conservative politically. And she became a very, very interesting person to know because she told us the story about how she was fired from Three's Company because as a woman, she wanted to be paid an equal amount of money to the stars on the show, and they refused and they fired her. And that proved to be the beginning of a great career for her because her husband, Alan Hamill, was a great star in Canada. And he was a whiz, a producer, director whiz. And he led her, and the two of them created a career for her that was just simply unbelievable. She was just gloriously funny, very smart, politically savvy, very strong-willed, very much into strong parenting rights. We had many, many dinners and wonderful times with them. And I just want to say she was a phenomenal human being. Just one of the, once you spent time with her and Alan, you had a marvelous opportunity in life because they had a magnificent home in the hills overlooking Palm Springs. And we spent many, many evenings and days there. And we will always remember her because she was a fabulous human being, and she had the equally great benefit of being a great conservative. She wasn't known for that. But boy, she was. And by the way, she became so conservative that her dear friend, Barry Manilow, refused to talk to her because she supported Trump.
So
Joe, she supported Trump.
Wow.
Joe, let me ask you this because we read snippets from Alan's letter to Suzanne sent to her just the day before she passed. I mean, truly one of the great love stories out there. Talk about their relationship a little more, please.
Well, they never separated. When they met. It's a strange story. They met and they never separated. The first time they ever met each other, they fell in love. They never separated except a few key moments in their life. And they lived a singular life together. And Alan was totally devoted to her. Yeah. His life was Suzanne and making her into a great star. By the way, people don't know this. She became a huge star in Las Vegas. She lived in Vegas for almost 10 years in one of the major hotels and had a show there 5 nights a week.
Wow.
And it was sold out. She and Wayne Newton had the two biggest shows in Las Vegas. And she was fabulous. She could dance. She was a great singer. They had a wonderful show that they put together, and that was all Alan. Alan was an incredible producer. He's crestfallen now, as you might imagine. But he has the benefit of knowing that they spent this amazing life together and what he did to make it that way. So I just wanted to say something about her because she is an amazing woman. I mean, she and Victoria bonded because Victoria is very strong and strong-willed and a single mother who raised three kids. Victoria went through a lot in life, and she and Suzanne were able to bond, and it was a great friendship, and we dearly miss her already. She was a tough cookie, but she was also a beautiful and wonderful person.
Well, Joe, just on that, Suzanne Summers, she appeared to be. She was so cheerful. Every time you saw her, sort of on the television, she was always so cheerful and bubbly. But she had really struggled with cancer. She had some significant health issues, but you never saw that. She just was always such a sort of bright light out there. Did you? She was a great believer in alternative medicine and alternative foods and treatments and things like that, and she believed in that, and it held her well. Yeah,
she treated herself. She went to doctors who would treat her the way she wanted to be treated. She was very, very firm about that, but in all of that, part of her philosophy of living with the food and the diet and the natural lifestyle was to be happy.
Yeah.
And to project happiness, because she believed that you could encourage people, you could change people, you could influence people by virtue of your personality. And she was able to do that. And if you spent time with her, you would see it immediately, because she was extremely engaging, and not like the superstars you see in Hollywood who are huffy and offish and are surrounded by bodyguards. She was engaged and just absolutely, and people loved her. I mean, when we would go to restaurants in Palm Springs, one of our favorites was a French restaurant in Palm Springs. And it was just, people just wanted to say hi and say hello, and how much they enjoyed it, and how they remembered the Thigh Master. And
sure.
But they couldn't stop talking about Three's Company. Of course, no one knew the story of how she had been fired because she wanted equal pay. But that was a changing moment in her life. I mean, that changed everything. She became an independent figure at that point. And John Ritter was a bitter, bitter man, by the way. I mean, he just hated her. He hated her intensely because she went out and made her own life after he rejected her, and he couldn't stand it. He just hated her until the day he died.
Listen, Joe, I can't tell you how much we appreciate this insight on this. Listen, could you stick around for another segment so we can talk about some of the other news things that are happening?
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Good. So we're going to continue our conversation with Joe diGenova, lifelong friend of Suzanne Summers, giving a very moving testimonial. But first, it is 7:15 a.m.
WMAL. Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I am Andrew Langer. That is Julie Gunlock. This is O'Connor Company on WMAL. We've just had a very moving tribute by Joe diGenova, former U.S. attorney and now legal analyst, to his friend, Suzanne Summers, longtime friend Suzanne Summers. Joe, I really appreciate that perspective on Suzanne Summers, but we also need to get your perspective on what's going on in the news. As I started, there's this hearing up on Capitol Hill last week on D.C. crime, and I'll ask you, so they're finally getting it, maybe? What are your thoughts here?
No, listen. They don't get anything, but remember, just like Joe Biden's open border is purposeful, the crime in the District of Columbia and the increase in it is purposeful. When you have a mayor, Muriel Bowser, and that deputy mayor, Apaya, who was up there testifying, and a U.S. attorney, Matthew Graves, who believe in one thing, de-incarceration. They do not want to incarcerate blacks. Even if blacks are committing all the crime, no matter what they do, they want to make sure that they arrest and incarcerate the fewest number of people who in D.C. happen to be black. Now, Matthew Graves is black, and I'm not sure that that affects his decision-making completely. But Matthew Graves is a leftist. He is a United States attorney. He is a disgrace to that office. The things that he has said and done during his term are an embarrassment to my old office. I'm sure there are a lot of assistant U.S. attorneys there who love him. I'm sure there are a lot of assistant U.S. attorneys there who despise him and believe that he is an embarrassment to the office. But you cannot have this type of hands-off law enforcement and expect anything else to happen but crime to go up. The statistics are irrefutable. And the deputy mayor, Apaya, can sit there and say all she wants that this is an ecosystem problem. I couldn't believe that this idiot deputy mayor said that it's an ecosystem problem.
Right.
I don't know what world these people live in. And they obviously don't live in a high crime area of the city. And actually, in some of these instances, I'm not sure they even live in the city. We've had a lot of big problems with people who fake living in the city but actually live in either Maryland or Virginia. But that's another story. The bottom line is very simple. Crime is out of control because that's exactly the way Mayor Bowser and the U.S. attorney want it. Now, when I was U.S. attorney during some of the toughest times in the city's history, and we were able to work very closely with the police department, bring it under control, reduce homicides. This was at the beginning of new drugs coming into the city. This was when PCP was the big drug. And all of a sudden, that now has changed where it is become important not to arrest people. And because that's the cultural model that's being used by all of these people, the Black Lives Matter, the CRT people. You mustn't arrest blacks. Once that's your system, once you decided that you're going to let crimes be committed, just look at what went on in 2020. Look at all the robberies going on in California, Beverly Hills, all of these massive assaults on drugstores and department stores. That's organized crime.
Yep.
That's being allowed to occur in those cities, and it's being allowed to occur in D.C.
Yeah. Joe, I just have a quick question. Want to pivot over to the Hunter Biden investigation. House Oversight Chairman Comer sent a letter to the White House last week about inconsistencies in the timeline on the classified documents. There's this new figure, Annie Tomasini, a senior Biden aide. She inspected the classified documents in March 2021. That's 2 months after Biden took office and 20 months before they were said to be found. Interesting about Tomasini, she's a real bud of Hunter Biden. She often referred to Hunter as her brother, and she would send her emails. She'd sign off her emails with "Love you." Tell us what you've learned about this.
The bottom line is very simple. The Bidens lie about everything. The president lies about everything. The Biden White House lies about everything. This is not a complicated story. They covered this up. They used their lawyers, Bob Bauer. You think he didn't know about this? That's the first thing he found out, was that this had started 20 months earlier. And what did he say publicly, Bob Bauer? We just discovered this the other day at the Penn Center during we were moving some boxes. That was a lie. Yeah. That was not true. And he knew it wasn't true. So the bottom line is you cannot believe anything that these people are saying. And now the problem is you've got a corrupt Justice Department under Merrick Garland. They have this special counsel, who's investigating the president, President Biden, and apparently has interviewed him over 2 days at the White House. I bet that was a doozy of an interview with this president's brain power and memory, quote unquote. So bottom line is I expect nothing to come from this. I don't expect anybody to be charged. There will be a report written. There'll be nice little cutesy things said about boys will be boys, and Tomasinis will be Tomasinis, and all of this is and Hunter's a private citizen, so who cares? I mean, this is where we are. This is a banana republic now, and the best example of it is Merrick Garland. I mean, he has disgraced himself even more than the U.S. attorney.
Well, listen, Joe, unfortunately, we have to leave it there. Listen, our hearts go out to you and Victoria and the loss of your good friend, Suzanne Summers. You take care, my friend.
Yeah.
Will do. Thank you all so much for letting me talk about her. She was a great lady.
Oh,
absolutely. Listen,
we appreciate it.
Yeah, we do. Right now, we got so much more to get to right now at 7:23 here on WMAL. Well, the Washington Commanders broke their 3-game losing streak to defeat the Atlanta Falcons on the road. We're going to be joined by Trevor Matich to talk all about it. Right now, it is 7:30 right here on WMAL.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I am Andrew Langer in for Larry O'Connor, sitting alongside Julie Gunlock. Hello, Julie.
Good morning.
Good morning. Listen, big news over the weekend. I got to admit, I was skeptical that the Washington Commanders were going to be able to pull it out on the Atlanta Falcons, especially given the Atlanta Falcons game the week before. Joining us right now to talk about this is Trevor Matich. He is WMAL's Commanders analyst. Trevor, I don't think there was anything wrong in me being dubious that the Commanders were going to be able to pull this out, and yet they did. They snapped the 3-game losing streak. This was a do or die game for the Commanders, wasn't it?
It was. There's a big difference between 2 and 4, and having had that losing streak, coming off of that Bears loss that you mentioned, Andrew, which was one of the worst losses in Coach Ron Rivera's tenure with Washington, and being 3 and 3. And right now, don't look now. Don't look. I'll tell you, but don't look. Keep your eyes closed unless you're driving. If the season ended today, after 6 games, the Commanders would be in a tie-breaking situation for the last playoff spot. Think about that, for all the ugly that we've experienced so far this year.
But is that a commentary on the Commanders themselves, or lackluster football on behalf of the rest of the division?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's part of that, and really the rest of the league is kind of struggling in a lot of ways, the rest of the NFC. But it is a compliment to the Commanders. Yes. Because, again, they could have just sort of gone the other direction. They were mentally resilient after that Bears debacle in the last game they played, and they came back and won a tough game on the road. And so they deserve a lot of credit for that.
You know, that's the important point, is that this was on the road, which is part of the reason why I was dubious. Do you think Coach Rivera sort of went into the locker room and said, listen, you're playing good ball and the fundamentals. You just got to keep your head down, focus on the game, and perform. I mean, is that what happened? Because it seems to me that they played solid ball, moving the ball down the field. Talk about that.
Well, they got a lot of help.
Yeah.
You know, what they did was they didn't make the big mistake. Sam Howell, the quarterback, didn't have any turnovers. The Commanders had no turnovers at all, and the defense for the Commanders got 3 interceptions. Yes. And that was the difference in the game, because the Falcons had over 400 yards total offense. They moved the ball up and down the field, mostly through the air, but then Washington would stop them with interceptions. Yeah. And that was the key to the game. Washington's offense really didn't move the ball much. They had 3 touchdowns, but one was an 11-yard drive after a huge punt return got him down close to the end zone. One was a 27-yard drive after one of those interceptions. And so they didn't really move the ball well. What they did do was protect the ball while the Falcons did not.
Yes, and actually talk about that, because that's one of the areas where there's been a knock on the Commanders that they haven't engaged in a lot of pass protection. Talk about what they did.
Okay, when you talk about pass protection,
yeah,
and this is the fumbles. The sacks that quarterback Sam Howell kept taking, 5 sacks. Right, the Falcons came into this game tied for last in the NFL with fewest sacks, 5 total sacks the whole season coming into this game, and they got 5 against Sam Howell. But as I watched that unfold, Andrew, most of those were Sam Howell's fault. As a matter of fact, I hope they hurt, because he's got to get the ball out more quickly, and he's got to stop running in the pocket where defenders are being blocked. I mean, think about that. When he got sacked in this game, most of the time it was because he would drop back, look around, not like what he sees, and then go run over to where a defender was being blocked. And then he got hit. And I'm like, Sam, I hope that hurt. At some point, you got to stop that.
So beyond that, what other lessons can the Commanders take from their win over the Falcons on the road? They're on the road again next week against the Giants, aren't they? What can they take from this week to use next week?
Well, it's the concept of don't lose the game yourself. Normally when you take 5 sacks, I mean, those negative plays stop drives. It's one of the reasons that the Commanders weren't able to really move the ball. I mean, they were 193 yards total offense. That's putrid. It's horrible. It's horrific. But a big reason for that was the sacks stopped drives. And so that's the first thing they need to do is quarterback needs to understand that he either needs to get the ball out. If he doesn't like what he sees, then if there's nowhere to run in terms of scrambling, throw the ball away. And don't let it be a negative play, just a zero play. That's the first thing. But the second thing is to protect that ball, because when it came down to it, for all the things the Commanders did not do in this game offensively and defensively, really, because the Falcons were able to move the ball through the air very well. The concept of playing clean is important. In other words, more football games in the NFL are lost than they are won because of poor plays and mistakes and really unnecessary mistakes, penalties and things like that. More games are lost than they are won. In this case, the Commanders didn't really win this game. The Falcons lost it, although you could make the case that the Commanders' defense won it with those 3 interceptions, one in the end zone. So understand that part of it first. First, do no harm. It's the Hippocratic Oath of NFL football.
It sounds like the Republican Party at work there, Trevor. I appreciate that. Listen,
well, it's medical. It's medical.
Yes, we look forward to speaking with you again next week. Trevor Matich, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Julie.
That was Trevor Matich. He's the WMAL Washington Commanders analyst. Again, the Commanders won. Listen, we got more coming up. It's 7:43 here on WMAL. You know, I sit here and listen to this, Julie, and you know, it's funny. I went down a whole 80s music rabbit hole over the weekend and was listening to, till Tuesday in the motels and a bunch of other things. Anyway, so Julie, isn't it fascinating when Gen Z starts to discover things? It's like literally, it's like a parent watching a kid, just they discover the benefits of butter. Or as you said, I'm going to steal it from you, Julie, was like, you boil an egg in water and it becomes this poached egg thing,
God.
and it's just glorious.
Yeah.
So,
They've, by the way, they have, in terms of the food thing, they have suddenly discovered cottage cheese, which
God.
has been around for, I don't know, a long time. And suddenly it's all the rage on Reels and TikTok. Like everybody's doing these cottage cheese bowls and this.
Oh, my goodness.
It is,
cottage, got a diet
it is
plate.
so hilarious.
You remember, something? There was a thing. It was on every diner menu in New Jersey and New York and the tri-state area. The diet plate, which was cottage cheese,
tuna fish salad, chicken salad. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the ones that had it was a cottage cheese, a hamburger patty with no bun,
yes.
and some kind of fruit salad or like pineapple. Anyway, so this is the latest one, Julie. They've discovered walking. Here, Michael. Let's play cut number 12 of this girl here.
I'm committing to 1 silent walk a day.
Not me unintentionally starting a movement. It's called silent walking, and it's about to change your life. So this all started when my nutritionist recommended that I start walking 30 minutes a day instead of doing like insane cardio like I used to. Those workouts were making my body inflamed. That's a story for another time. And as I was about to go out on my first 30-minute walk, my sweet boyfriend challenged me to walk without distractions. No AirPods, no podcast, no music, just me, myself, and I. And at first I was like, no, my anxiety could never, which is probably what you're thinking. But something within me was like, let me just try it. And look, the first 2 minutes are mayhem. Your mind is racing, you're gonna have anxiety. Something happens after 2 minutes where your brain just gets into this flow state and everything is quiet. And suddenly, you can hear yourself. Look, the universe and your intuition comes to you through whispers. So if you're never alone with your thoughts and you never get quiet, you're going to miss the whispers. And those whispers are the most important to be paying attention to.
I can't take
After 30 minutes of silent walk.
Julie, let's remember earlier in the show today, American Journal of Pediatrics. Hold on, the American Journal of Pediatrics reports that in point of fact, when parents don't let their kids play outside on their own, this is a direct cause of mental health problems, as proof positive by Silent Walking Girl thinking she started a movement here. This isn't really. It
really does show that the Gen Z, and look, I'm sorry to beat up on Gen Z, but I'm going to do it. do they understand that the world existed before their generation?
No.
That is the most remarkable thing about Gen Z, is they think that like history started on their birthday, and that
Yes.
the world did not exist before technology, before TikTok, before oversharing your every stupid thought. It's just remarkable. It's just remarkable.
It's well. By the way, incidentally, if you have yourself plugged in to your Walkman or your iPad, Walkman. See, this is Walkman.
Oh, Andrew, I am never going to let you forget.
Okay, if you have yourself plugged into your Walkman as your Discman as you're walking, you are distracted, right? It's no distractions. No, you're fundamentally distracted because you are
Yes.
focusing on whatever
Unplugging
it
is good. This is not news,
No.
and this is not a discovery. Just like cottage cheese has been around for a long time. People
my God.
really, this generation really needs to get a grip. It is.
Well, right. Sorry, go ahead. You were saying.
No, I'm done.
I just it is there is a thread here that we have really tugged on today. Besides me tugging on the thread that I'm still living in 1987 and talking about the Walkman.
I could see the regret in your face the minute you said it.
I love this. Siraj Hashmi writes, Zoomers will do something normal and then go all Christopher Columbus and act like they discovered it the first time. Incidentally, okay, let me ask you this real quick before we go to the break. So, because I brought this up on the air on Friday, and both Heather and Patrice looked at me like I was insane. The idea of washing, people who used to shower with their jeans are in order to make them fit properly.
That was so revolting.
Yes.
Why are you bringing it up again?
Because I
No.
have to. Because I'm trying to dig myself out of the hole here.
That's enough. We don't need to go there.
We got so much more to get to with me not talking about Sony Walkman. It's 7:53 here on WMAL.